October 31st, 1998. Hollow Creek, Pennsylvania. The town had always been quiet. Tucked away between dense, ancient woods and highways long forgotten, Hollow Creek was the kind of place where secrets stayed buried, locked deep within the earth. But on this Halloween night, something ancient stirred beneath its soil, something hungry. It began with a whisper. At precisely 6:06 p.m., the power flickered across town. It wasn't a blackout, just a pulse, a breath. The kind of thing you feel deep in your bones before you ever see it. Children in colorful costumes paused mid-laugh, their joyful cries catching in their throats. Dogs whined and whimpered, tucking their tails between their legs. And in the old, decrepit Briar House at the very edge of town, the clocks stopped, every single one of them. Exactly at 6:06, Eli Mercer, at 17, had never believed in ghosts. He was the kind of kid who scoffed at horror movies and rolled his eyes at the town's spooky urban legends. He lived in the world of the real, the tangible. But when he found the envelope on his doorstep, his world started to tilt. It was sealed with black wax, bearing no return address, just his name written in an elegant, almost archaic script. He felt something shift, a cold dread he couldn't explain. Inside, there was a single heavy card. The message was simple, yet chilling. You are invited to witness the truth. The Briar House, midnight, come alone. He laughed at first, a nervous, hollow sound. It had to be a prank from his friend Mason, a classic Halloween gag, but the handwriting. Something about its looping, old-fashioned elegance made him hesitate. It felt surreal. That night, against his better judgment, curiosity won. The invitation felt less like a choice and more like a command. He had to go. The Briar House had been abandoned for decades, a skeletal silhouette against the moonlit sky. The locals whispered stories about it, tales of a curse. They said the last family who lived there, the Abernethys, had vanished without a trace back in 1966. No bodies were ever found. No clues were left behind, just dark, ominous bloodstains on the walls and a single child's handprint, burned impossibly into the wooden floor of the attic. Eli arrived at 11:59 p.m. The air around the house was thick, heavy. It wasn't cold, not in the normal sense, it was just wrong. The atmosphere itself seemed to have weight pressing down on him, making it hard to breathe. As the clock on his watch ticked over to midnight, the massive front door of the Briar House creaked open all on its own, a deep groan that echoed into the suffocating silence. It was an invitation. He stepped inside. And his breath caught. The house was pristine. There was no dust, no decay, none of the rot you'd expect from a place abandoned for over 30 years. There was only silence and candles, hundreds of them, their flames flickering but casting no warmth. They lined the grand hallway, a river of pale light leading toward a winding staircase, beckoning him deeper into the darkness. Heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs, Eli followed them. At the top of the stairs, he found a room unlike any he'd ever seen. Every single wall was covered in mirrors, from the floor to the high ceiling. In the exact center of the room sat a single ornate chair, and on it, a girl. She looked no older than 10, with skin as pale as porcelain and a simple, black dress that seemed to absorb the candle light. Her eyes, wide and dark like wet coal, fixed on him. You came, she whispered, her voice a soft, rustling sound like dead leaves skittering across pavement. Eli tried to speak, to ask who she was, what this place was, but his voice was trapped in his throat. The mirrors around them began to shimmer, the glass warping like heated liquid. They weren't showing reflections anymore, they were showing memories, his memories. He saw his mother's funeral, the polished wood of her casket gleaming under the church lights. He saw his first heartbreak, the sting of tears on his face. He saw the night he'd almost drowned at the lake, the black water closing over his head. You carry so much pain, the girl said, her voice filled with a strange, ancient sadness. They all do. Who are you? He finally managed to choke out, the words feeling foreign and clumsy in his own mouth. She offered a small, sad smile. I'm what's left. And then, a sound like cracking ice filled the room. The mirrors began to fracture, not shattering into pieces, but splintering into countless shards. Each fragment showed a different version of Eli. One was smiling, a ghost of a happy memory. Another was screaming in silent terror, and one was lying still on the floor, his eyes vacant, dead. He realized then he wasn't alone with the girl. From the shadows between the mirrored walls, figures began to emerge. Teenagers, adults, even small children. Their faces were pale and blank, their movements slow and silent. And they all had the same empty, black eyes. They came before you, the girl explained, her voice echoing from all directions at once. They were invited. They were curious. They stayed. Panic seized Eli. He spun around, scrambling for the exit, but the door he'd entered through was gone. The mirrored walls seemed to be closing in, the room shrinking around him. The hundreds of candles flickered and dimmed, plunging the room into a deep, oppressive gloom. You were invited, she repeated, her voice now a chilling, melodic chant, and you accepted. I didn't know. This is a trap, he yelled, his voice raw with fear. But you came, she whispered, the final words sealing his fate. The walls began to bleed, not with red blood, but with a thick, black substance like ink, which dripped down the fractured mirrors, erasing his reflections. The silent figures closed in, their hands reaching, their touch icy cold. Eli opened his mouth to scream, but no sound came out. His terror was swallowed by the silence of the house. The only thing he could hear was a soft, childlike laughter echoing from the girl in the chair. She reached out and touched his forehead with a single, cold finger. And in that instant, Eli saw everything. The truth, the Briar House wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was a living thing, a predator, and it was hungry. It didn't feed on flesh and blood. It fed on memory, on fear, on identity. Every Halloween, it reached out and called someone new. Someone curious, someone feeling lost or alone. It didn't kill its victims, it erased them. Eli's own name began to fade from his mind, the letters dissolving into nothing. His face, his own face, became a blur in his memory. His thoughts, his hopes, his fears, they all scattered like ash in the wind. He was becoming one of them, another pale figure. Another silent whisper in the walls of the Briar House. At 6:06 a.m., the clocks in Hollow Creek began to tick again. The town awoke, unaware of the night's silent horror. Eli's parents started their frantic search. His friends posted flyers with his smiling face on them, but soon the flyers came down. The worrying faded, the questions stopped. Because no one remembered the invitation. No one remembered the dark allure of the Briar House, because Hollow Creek forgets. That's how it survives. The town's memory is pruned, year after year, to keep the hunger of the house a secret. Years pass, the world changes, but some things remain. It is October 31st, 2025. On a quiet street in a town that has forgotten how to remember, a teenager finds a strange envelope on their doorstep. It's sealed with black wax. Inside, a card awaits with an elegant, looping script. A new invitation, a new name, a new night. And at the edge of town, the house waits, patient and hungry. Thank you so much for joining me for this tale. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next from the shadows. Stay safe out there.